Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about like producers on the come up, producers that we think that are next to maybe hit these top 10 lists for us here. Obviously, don't have the body of work, but are on their way up there. Um, I think first off, if I'm having a conversation about up and coming producers, I'm gonna start it with Kaytranada.
Okay.
I'm gonna say he's probably the biggest one to watch for. He's got a unique sound with his synths and just got that bounce to it. Like it's kind of like slowed down house music a little bit.
Right. More down tempo, kind of like house, but yeah, I like that choice. Katra definitely is an influence. I think he's influencing the next generation too. I think you're right. A lot of people are starting to find out about Kaytranada, and I think a lot more rappers and MCs and things like that will start definitely fucking with him more.
Yeah, and
Um,
he's got official remixes for Janet Jackson. I think Madonna as well. He's worked with Fonte, Anderson Paak, Kareem Riggins, Craig David, Vic Mensa, um, Bad Bad Not Good. They're a band out of Montreal. Kaytranada's from Montreal too.
right.
So represents Haiti. His family's Haitian. So shout out to Kaytranada. But he's definitely one to watch out for. I mean, it's just every beat is just got that bounce to it.
Yeah, real talk. When we're talking about that future sound and things like that, Kaytranada is the leader. I think a lot of what we're seeing today is kind of not necessarily based, because I think it's based off of a lot of Pharrell stuff
Mm-hmm.
and then remixed. And even Katra has said, Pharrell is a very big influence for him in his life. Everybody fuck with Star Trek, but I think he was the reason, the Neptunes and those guys are the reason why these kind of sounds are coming out now, is because now it's okay. They kind of went through their trials and errors to force it, and Katra definitely has made it his own. And yeah, you kind of know if you're a fan of music and you listen to a lot of shit, and you definitely know who Kaytranada is. You know when a Kaytranada beat is coming on. Like I can definitely tell a Kaytranada
Mm-hmm.
track. Like you said, his sense and the way his beat, the bass, the way that he hooks his drums with the bass and everything, and it's got that heavy sound to it. The way it is, yeah, I know it's. I'd be like, oh shit, that's Katra.
Yeah. It's like heavy, but it's got enough float to it that you can either sing or rap to it.
Right.
And it just sounds good with both. If you never heard of Kaytranada, listen to 99.9%, his
Yeah.
debut album from a couple years ago, I think 2016. Awesome album. And I'm sure we'll go more in depth on it when we go into our favorite albums of the decade as the year goes through here. But that definitely would start the conversation with Kaytranada there. What's an up and coming producer that you'd want to talk about?
Up and coming producer like right now. Man, I think as I was saying earlier, I think we're in the golden age of hip hop and production and things like that. It's honestly hard to say, because there's so many right now who are really stretching the bounds and are really really good. One up and comer that I really just keyed into right now, that I pretty much grab everything from, is definitely out of the selection camp, and that's Jero Vandal.
Yeah.
Jero Vandal is a very talented producer, has a lot of depth, a different sound. Jero Vandal is a resident from Amsterdam. For those of you who don't know, we've actually used one of his songs for the songs of the week. We've also talked about his album here and there. Because he's definitely got some heat in there that I've also used in the mixes, and I think that dude has just so much depth in his sound, and he can make so many different sounds. If you want a trap beat, he'll give you probably one of the best trap hard shit that you're hearing. If you want like some really vibey, synthy hip hop shit, he can give you that. If you want some Afro beat sounding shit, he can give you that. If you want a house track, he can give you that. He can literally give you everything, and it all sound fire. And
Yeah.
all of his remixes and everything that he does, like his Vandalize edit series, is definitely so dope. He sometimes even makes it better than the original. And I'm just like, damn, Jero Vandal is definitely one of my favorites currently right now, especially after just getting that Vandalize edits and listening to those and playing with those. His flip of the Kanye Sunday service, I think everybody bit off of his shit, because he was the first one I saw put a clip out or hear a clip of him doing
Mm-hmm.
it, and then literally everybody did it.
Yep.
So, and took the same part and flipped it and tried to make it their way, but literally they were copying him, and he still did it better than everybody else. I've probably heard like 5 edits of that Sunday service one from 5 different producers, and they all sound like his to start, but then they all go differently. But Jarreau still sounds the best. He flips it between like a Mabuton reggaeton kind of beat, trap, back into the sample of just the blank. It's like, yo, this dude is, and he did it all in 2 minutes.
And it's all got soul to it. Like every beat's got like a little soul to it.
Yeah, a little soul to it, man. Like you can definitely tell. And he's still young, man. I think he's definitely under 30. He's probably one of the older ones that you're seeing, like out of the selection camp, and I'm pretty sure he's still under 30.
I think he's younger too, actually.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure he's like 25 or less kind of age. And it's like, damn, that dude is cold as shit. Like coldest production ever, dog.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm big into all of that, man.
Yeah, Jarreau Vandal, definitely a beast. Another up and comer, also from the selection camp, Monte Booker, I think is a guy to watch out for.
Yeah.
If you listen to either of the 2 Smino albums, Monte Booker's all up and down. Both of those produce majority of the tracks with Smino.
Yep.
And also works with a bunch of other Chicago artists. He's definitely younger than Jarreau Vandal. I'm pretty sure Monte Booker's like 22 or 23.
Yeah, I think he's 22 because I'm pretty sure I remember seeing him last year post that he turned 21 because he had made a beat or something like that. So I remember seeing something like that. So yeah, definitely young as fuck. Like all these dudes coming from the selection camps are hella young, man, and I love it because Joe himself is young. Joe K, one of the founders of Selection, he definitely knows where to find these dudes, and they're all young as shit. Like all of them are just fucking babies for the most part, but they're all good. They're all really good.
Yeah, so the 2 Smino albums, Monte Booker has his own solo debut coming out soon, probably this year, because I remember him tweeting a couple months ago that he already was mastering it. So
right,
sitting on that heat. I know he was also invited to the Dreamville sessions down there in Atlanta that J. Cole did. He was one of the first people J. Cole invited. I guess J. Cole had heard the Smino album and was like, yo, he hit up Smino and was like, yo, who produced this shit? And then he got on to Monte Booker. So I'm sure there's bigger and brighter things coming up for Monte Booker here because of all of that. And his beats definitely very soulful, very bouncy. It's kind of reminds me, like the soul part of it is kind of like got a Dilla vibe to it, but it has that future sound kind of bass and drum pattern to it. Yeah,
absolutely. No, definitely these young cats, man, they're bringing the heat. Another up and comer, of course, at least from my book, and we've talked about him several times on the show, is FKJ. When you're talking about full bodies of production, he is it, man. He can give you anything that you want. I've heard all different kinds of sounds and tracks from FKJ, from his edits and his remixes. He can give you all those sounds too, but it's so pure and clean, especially with his actual musicianship and his artistry. That dude's on another level, man. Him and Tom Misch is like in that top level shit that I hear all the time. Tom Misch is another one. When you're talking about a production that he's just out of his mind, man.
Yeah, and both of these dudes, FKJ and Tom Misch, in their younger 20s. I think FKJ is probably like 25 and Tom Misch like 23 or something. And FKJ is from France. We've talked about him before, had him on as a song of the week, but multi-instrumentalist, singer, songwriter. He basically puts on a drum loop, starts playing the guitar, the piano, the saxophone, and makes a beat out of it. And it's just tremendous. Looks like he's venturing more out into producing for other people as well as for himself. I know he just dropped a single with Coltrane, who's a singer on the come up. And Tom Misch, obviously another name that we should bring up here, as a producer, heavily influenced by Jay Dilla. You can tell it, he's got the Dilla drum pattern on all of his tracks.
Yep.
And he plays the guitar, shreds some crazy ass, jazz guitar solos into his production. and just a tremendous talent as a songwriter, as a singer, but more so as a musician. And he's dropped a couple of beat tapes. He dropped a couple of albums of his own music where he's singing. Just a tremendous talent.
Yeah, absolutely. Tremendous talent. Can't wait to see what he drops with that Yusef Dawes this year. That's going to be so fire. He actually just posted on IG that it's getting pretty close. So that means we about to get some heavy dope ass music. I know FKJ is also going to be dropping soon. And they're more on that, they play real instruments. We're talking guitars and everything else. And those dudes can riff their asses off and make you vibe into a certain way. When I want to hear some hard ass shit, up and coming wise, we talked about the trap movement, and I remember coming up, of course, Jeezy dropping the Can't Ban the Snowman mixtapes all up until Thug Motivation 101 and everything like that. And of course, T.I. and everybody around then. So we're talking like the Zaytoven. Zaytoven really was one of the help pioneers of this current, moves in music and everything like that. Lex Luger, but definitely Kenny Beats. When you talk about the trap shit, I think he's running it right now. I don't think anybody can do it any better than Kenny Beats right now. I hear a lot of cats trying to do it, and there's a bunch of dope beats, but there's so many. It's so easy. Like half of these dudes, they find some YouTube dude who has like a really lit ass beat, and then they make it big. Kenny Beats kind of did it all on his own, and he just drops the hardest shit from Freddie, doing all the Freddie project, 88 Glam, Key. Who else has he worked? Man, he's worked with a bunch of stuff. Yeah, Rico Nasty. I've heard several of his tracks, and I'm just like, this dude is the best trap producer in the game right now, no doubt.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is the journey that he took. So he wasn't making any money off of selling hip hop beats, but he saw that EDM was getting huge, so he started making EDM trap beats as Loud Pack with his buddy, and from there, I think that really helped his musicianship a lot. I think being in front of those crowds helped him, see what crowds react to, what people like, what they're into.
Right.
And then just incorporate it back into hip hop beats. He made his money. He got his bag. He left. So if you see Loud Pack on tour now, it's the other dude. It's not Kenny Beats anymore, because Kenny's strictly doing hip hop beats in his studio and just killing it. Like he basically just came out of nowhere over the past 2 years, doing these projects with rappers. So, basically he just takes a rapper into his studio for a week or two, acts as their therapist, and brings the best out of them. And the 808s are banging.
Brings the best out of them and brings the best weed, because they all get super high.
Yeah, a little YouTube series. You got to check it out. It's called The Cave. And it's just super dope. Smino killed it on there. Freddie killed it on there.
Yep.
So he brings the best out of everybody, and he got the best weed.
Kenny got that dope. that's what Freddie said. Kenny, you got that dope, boy. Freddie be cracking me up, man. And there's so many to name when you're talking like underground and who's coming up and things like that. I mean, we could probably name a producer from every genre pretty much that you should be on the lookout for. I mean, definitely looking at the indie rockish kind of area. Of course, to me right now, Khruangbin and Tame Impala are probably the two dopest at their professions. Doing what they do. I think they're definitely like two of the dopest in that kind of sound, that psychedelic.
Yeah.
That kind of psychedelic and floaty sound.
The Free Nationals too should probably be brought up in this conversation.
Yeah, Free Nationals. I was going to say Free Nationals, and also the internet, because the internet collective as a group is so deep that each one of those guys producing on their own is already just nuts as it's on its own. Between Patrick Page, Matt Martians, and
Steve Lacy,
those dudes right there, just them, are excellent artists by themselves, and they're all about to drop solo shits too. Steve Lacy's definitely dropping one, and we're definitely hoping for
there's definitely a Matt Martians drop.
Matt Martians, yeah, I'm sorry, Matt Martians the definite. We're hoping for Steve Lacy.
Yes.
He dropped his first single that we had on as our song of the week as well, and those dudes are nasty. They're on a whole different level when you're looking at that type of sound and anything that you want, as well as Kyle Dion. You can throw him in there because he's helping produce a lot of his tracks as well with his band. From what I
Yes.
understand.
So it's pretty interesting. Like, there's like a transition there then, right? A lot of these hip hop R&B albums being made with live instrumentation as opposed to being produced by a single producer and a drum machine, right? It's like people
Right.
actually using instruments. So that, I think really that's pushing towards that next wave of sound. As everything becomes saturated, there's so much music coming out. You need your shit to stand out somehow.
Right.
And really, for a long time, we had the roots and just the roots. And it
Right.
looks like at this level now, everything's transitioning more towards that live sound. I know there's been one-offs, where rappers will go on tour with a live band and things like that. However, I don't think it's been at this level before in the game. And
No.
it's awesome. It's definitely fascinating to see, because that's the way to stand out, is by making real music. And these guys are awesome performers. I think Robert Glasper would need to be mentioned in this conversation, as well as Terrace Martin would need to be mentioned in this conversation, as well as they're two of the big ones, pushing that sound as well.
Absolutely. Definitely. Robert Glasper is literally on everybody's, like all of your favorite rappers who use live instrumentation and anything else when they need keys and arrangements. That's who they're calling. Like, he's on there. Even Kaytranada has a remix album of Robert Glasper. Him and they worked together and created a remix album for one of Robert Glasper's albums themselves. Robert Glasper is definitely a very hidden gem in the game. He's worked with even Lauryn Hill. He stated, and that's where a lot of people did find out about Robert Glasper, is he went on a rant, kind of a tirade on Lauryn Hill, kind of talking about how she's an asshole to her people and things like that, which I can totally believe. But he kind of called it out, but he's also, played for and been on tour with her and things like that. So he actually knows, and he's been on tour with some of your favorite people, as well as playing keys for Prince at a time, as well as going on tour with some of your favorite acts, and everything like that. Robert Glasper is definitely one of those people that should be mentioned, like you said. And Terrace Martin is a great musical mind, very talented saxophone player, great arranger, but also just a great producer in general as well. A lot of behind the scenes with Kendrick and does a lot of stuff with Kendrick.
Yeah, so let's kind of go into this conversation here. We're going to talk about Kendrick. We'll also transition this into the track of the week here. But Flying Lotus, right? If you never heard of Flying Lotus, he's definitely one of the best producers in the game. Definitely a little low key, I would say,
super low key
compared to the credit that he should get and the credit that he deserves. Tremendous producer, definitely kind of more of a on the artistic avant-garde kind of sound side. But really, Flying Lotus, he was on tour with Kendrick Lamar and Kanye on the Yeezus tour, and he basically helped Kendrick plot together To Pimp a Butterfly. So To Pimp a Butterfly, also kind of an avant-garde, kind of artistic album, right? Like, you can't listen to it, bump it every day. You got to kind of be in the right mood and set up for it, because it's so in your face. And actually, on Flylo's last solo album, Kendrick did a track with him. I forgot what the album was called. I'll have to go look that up real quick. But he did Never Catch Me. Flying Lotus introduced Kendrick to Thundercat, who's all up and down on To Pimp a Butterfly. Also, Thundercat, probably one of the top 3 bassists in the world right now.
Absolutely.
So, he's all on To Pimp a Butterfly. Terrace Martin's on there. Robert Glasper's on there. And it's all basically from Flying Lotus. And a lot of people don't know, too, Flying Lotus, he's, I think his aunt was Alice Coltrane. And Alice Coltrane was married to John Coltrane. So that's like jazz royalty right there in his blood.
Right away. And he has a bunch of actual jazz influence when it comes to literally everything that he did, and putting it together. He fuses his love of jazz, hip hop, video game sounds. He uses that a lot. I think you were thinking about the Cosmogramma album. Was that the one he was
Yeah,
on?
Cosmogramma and You're Dead are the two
Yeah, and You're
albums.
Dead was the 2014 one.
Yeah, You're Dead's got Never Gonna Catch Me with Kendrick on there.
Yeah.
He's also put out rap albums as Captain Murphy. But big in the LA scene, big in the LA production scene, kind of in the background is Flying Lotus. Definitely an interesting character. He got discovered by Adult Swim. Then he got a job from there. He won some beat competition, and he got a job with Stone's Throw Records, and then started Brain Feeder Records, which they just celebrated their 10-year anniversary, and they dropped a dope-ass Brain Feeder X album to commemorate that. But
that was a dope-ass album, too. That was really fire.
So, yeah, that Brain Feeder X album that has Thundercat on it, Flying Lotus, Toki Monsta, Taylor McFerrin. So these are all people that have been brought up from the Flying Lotus like tree of hip hop, and it's just crazy.
Yeah, so many have given props and praise to Flylo for everything that he's done. I mean, especially, and again, he's one of those guys who in the backgrounds where Jay Dilla was very important. He came from loving Jay Dilla, and he kind of transformed that, and also took. You can definitely hear the influence of Jay Dilla in some of his sounds and the way he does certain patterns and things like that. And he was able to take that and transform that even more. And he's also influencing another decade and generation of producers as well. I mean, you can hear Kaytranada talk about Flylo. You'll hear Mr. Carmack talk about Flylo. Pretty much anybody who's in the LA, who grew up in the LA area or around LA or in California for the most part, they definitely know who Flying Lotus is, because he had so much of an impact to that underground scene, especially dealing with Stone's Throw and everything else. Those are some pretty big labels to be around, and then creating his own and also putting out other people like Bad Bad Not Good and things like that. Like, he helped discover that group of people. How dope is that? And then he's also in the collective, knowing groups like Sarah. We've talked about Sarah on the show several times, and Sarah is also kind of in that same group, in that same category, with all the same clique of people. And you can hear the influences of them all kind of tying together, and it's so dope, because again, they've influenced groups like the Internet, Odd Future, in general, and opened those doors, and also helped open doors for Adult Swim to help find some of these artists like Odd Future, Tyler the Creator, those kind of guys, and getting them their shine and their light. Flylo is definitely probably the most underrated producer of this generation, of at least I would say from the 2010s for sure on up. Right now, just because I know that he's been doing it for a while, but he really started popping up and really started catching people's eye right around that 2010 era when he dropped the Cosmogramma album. And that's when a lot of people were like, damn, who is this dude and where is he at? But he's been dropping shit since 2006, and he's had a bunch of stuff, man. I mean, he's got a lot of stuff out here. Like you said, the Captain Murphy actually goes back to 2004. So, I mean, he has a lot of stuff out there, and you can literally look up so many albums that were done. And I think he's pushing right around 15 different albums or so since about 2004. So, I mean, damn, dude has volume. He has numbers. The most knock that people give Flylo is that his tracks are too short. They're so fire, but they're like a minute long. Some of them are even less than that. You'll get like a 45 seconds, of a beat, and you'll be like, damn, where's the rest of this shit?
Right? It should be just starting to bounce, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's like as soon as you start getting into it, then he switches it up and takes you down a whole nother path. And I really respect and really think is so dope for some of the ideas and some of the things that he puts out there. And I also love that he has volume. Like, most of his albums have like 18, 19, 20 tracks on it. The new one that's coming out, I think, got like 27 on it. I was like, yes, give me all that shit.
Yeah, Flamagra, it's coming out in May. And it's perfect transition. It's our track of the week, is the first single that dropped from this album. It's called Tekashi.
Yeah, it's called Tekashi, not to be confused with 6ix9ine, because he don't fuck with that fuck shit.
No, it's spelled a little differently too. T-A-K-S-H-I.
So he dropped 2 tracks within the last. I think they both dropped today, right? Because he did the little. And again, this is fly low fashion, as he'll give you a small snippet of a track or give you a small track for you to kind of lick your chops off of, and it's spontaneous with Little Dragon. And I'm hearing that one first, and I'm like, God damn, this dude is crazy. And it's just this beat is crazy. And actually, the first thing he dropped was like an interlude that he put on
with
YouTube
David Lynch.
With David Lynch, and it's called Fire Is Coming, and it literally has barely any type of tempo to it or anything like that. It just sounds like a warning of some sort, and I thought it was like really ominous. So he drops that first on YouTube, puts a crazy video out, which he does as well. Flylo is also an accomplished director. He just put out a movie. Was it 2 years ago now when he did the movie?
Yeah, Kuso. It's called Kuso. It's like a crazy, like horror snuff kind of film.
Yeah, really dope, but crazy, wild ass thing. He's doing 3D shows and shit right now. I mean, he's got it crazy, and then so he drops Spontaneous right after that, after just that little snippet, and then he gives us Tekashi as well today, and I'm just like, damn. I can't wait, man. I can't wait any longer. Like, you need to hurry up and drop this. Like, May needs to hurry up and come. There's so much heat that's going to come out, and yeah, I'm really excited. So we want y'all to hear this, peep this one as well. We got Tekashi by Flying Lotus as the song of the week. Y'all peep this. It's on iTunes and Apple Music right now. Get prepared for the album again, Flamagra. That's going to have features from Anderson .Paak, George Clinton's on that shit, Tierra Whack, Denzel Curry, David Lynch, as we just said. Shabazz Palaces. We heard about Shabazz Palaces, 2 years ago now?
Yep.
Shabazz Palaces is dope as shit. Really good group and project there. That Shabazz Palaces was fire when we did listen to it. I forgot about that one. I'm going to have to go back and check that one out.
Dang, me too, bro.
Because I remember when you found that, and you were like, what is this Shabazz Palaces? We listened to that shit and was like, oh, this is fire. It's got Thundercat. It's got Toro y Moi. Solange is on it. I mean, come on. And he actually has a tribute track to Mac Miller on there called Thank You, Malcolm. I'm looking forward to hear that one as well. So yeah, Flying Lotus, definitely an OG.